Hello to everyone. What is better to have, low or high fender? I am sure that many of you got this question once in a while. In this video, I'm gonna discuss the pros and cons of both options. Stay with me. Welcome back in the channel, guys. As you know, I never talk without having my personal experience. You might think that now the case is different because I have low fender, but I am here to tell you that I've got it once in a while and finally I change it. This is already enough to know my opinion, but let me give you more details. The first reason for most of the riders to change their fender is to have this nice adventure or Dakar style looking bike. It might look cool on a light dirt bikes, but it is not the same with the big adventure motorcycles. So far, I haven't seen heavy adventure motorcycle with high fender to look good, but it might be just me. The reason of that is because the bikes are too big and the fenders look like added on Photoshop. For me, they look much better with low fender. The second reason is that when you're riding in muddy conditions, the mud actually sticks between your tire and your fender and prevent the wheel from spinning. But I have a question for you guys. How many heavy big adventure motorcycles you have seen in the mud? Or how many of you are brave enough to push their bikes in such a conditions? I will tell you how many I have seen in the last 15 years. None. We have to be honest and confess, guys, that when we decide to go and ride in such a conditions, the fender, the low fender, is going to be the last problem we've got at the moment. We have to consider much more seriously the size and the weight of the bike before we even decided to go off the road. And one more thing, if it's so serious, if it's stuck, what you can do is just remove the fender and continue riding and fix it again when you finished. If you remember, when I was discussing the new Yamaha Tenere, I showed you two bolts here on the front fender. These bolts actually will allow you to move the fender with 1 centimeter higher and prevent all of this. So that's it. There are actually two pros to having a high fender, if we can call the Dakar version Pro. Let's see the cons now. The number one is the sail effect. When you have a high fender and you ride in the strong wind, and especially on the side wind or on the high speed, your bike actually moving all the time. The wind move your bike because of the size of the fender. I experienced this by myself, and this was the main reason to remove it. Especially if the bike is less than 200 kilograms, then it's more noticeable. Of course, if you have a very heavy bike, about 300 kilograms or 250 kilograms, it's not going to be that bad. But on that bike, that fender is even more nonsense. The second big problem is the water blasting. When you have a high fender, you're actually leaving the bottom part of the engine completely uncovered. And you might say, it's just the engine. What is the problem? Yes, guys, it is just the engine, but in my case, here is the relay regulator. So the water actually was spraying in high pressure relay regulator all the time, and also all of the electric connections and cables in this area. And as you can see, now I have a low fender, but I even added this extension here, more about maybe 12 centimeters, just to prevent all of this to happening. Especially when you ride in the rain, in the heavy rain, all of this water spraying constantly with high pressure, everything. And all of this, I'm absolutely sure that will have a negative effects on your motorcycle in long term. Number three is the brake lines routing. In my case, I am okay because I have only one brake line and I modified everything here, so I don't need to think about it. But in most of the new bikes, especially the heavy adventure bikes, they coming with two brake lines or one brake line, and they have got a connection here between like a bridge, and usually the lines are connected to the low fender. So when you remove it, you have to think about some additional hardware to mount it properly, and also you might damage it if you don't make it rightly. All of this could be a big problem when you're on a trip. Yeah, you can fix it almost everywhere, but it will take time. That's why it's better to think now instead of later. Number four is that you might have problems to fit it properly. It's not on every bike, not with every fender, but this was the case with mine. I bought the fender from a company with good reputation, and I bought the fender which is supposed to match perfectly for my model, but it was not exactly the case. First I need to add washers here underneath just to fix it properly, because I changed my forks, so it was completely different, and then it was too big and it was actually touching here the radiator, so I need to cut the last part of the fender because otherwise I cannot turn the steering. So you have to consider all of this and keep in mind that you might need to adjust some things before you're really ready to go and ride out. And the last is the cost. Yes, you can find some universal solutions for $20–30, but they are not going to be what you expect. So if you really need something nice and quality for your model, you have to spend at least $100 just for the fender. And after that, you might need some additional hardware to mount it properly, to reroute your lines and everything I just told you. So it's not going to be less than $100. Just keep that in mind. So the idea of this video is not to convince you that the low fender is better. You can use whatever you like. If you really like this Dakar view or adventure looking style, just go ahead. But at least you need to be informed what you expect after that. So now I'm gonna give you one piece of advice, and I really hope that you will listen. Most of the people always ignore this, but consider twice before you start buying all of this useless or nonsense stuff, because sometimes it's much cheaper just to change the bike instead of try to reach some kind of impossible task with a heavy adventure motorcycle. If you click on this window now, you will watch a video about basic adventure modifications, and here on the bottom it's a playlist with must-watch videos. As usual guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and see you next time. Ciao.